Welcome to Data Strategic Advantage Channel. Our topic today is fundamentals of data management. You know how valuable data is becoming, but where do you even begin with managing it effectively? I brought in an expert to help us break this down because, let's be honest, sometimes it feels like we're drowning in data.
It's true. We're generating more data than ever before, and it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But instead of seeing it as a burden, what if we looked at it as a gold mine? A gold mine that needs the right tools and strategies to extract its true value. That's essentially what data management is all about.
Okay, I like that analogy. But how do we actually go about mining this data gold? It can't be as simple as just buying a shovel and digging, right?
You're right. It's not that simple. It's more like setting up a sophisticated mining operation. You need a plan. You need specialized equipment. And you need people who know what they're doing.
So what's the first step in setting up our data mining operation? Where do we even begin?
The first step is to understand that data is an asset, just like any other valuable resource your company owns. And like any valuable asset, it needs to be managed carefully. That means having processes in place for collecting, storing, organizing, protecting, and using data effectively.
So it's not just about having the data, it's about what you do with it. Can you give an example of how this plays out in a real-world scenario?
Let's say you're an e-commerce company. You collect tons of data about your customers, their browsing history, purchase patterns, demographics. If you manage this data well, you can use it to personalize their shopping experience, recommend products they'll love, and ultimately increase sales. But if your data is a mess, you'll miss out on these opportunities.
Okay, that makes sense. But data management sounds like a lot of work, and honestly, a bit intimidating. Is it really worth the effort for everyone? Or just for big companies with tons of resources?
It's definitely worth the effort, no matter the size of your organization. In fact, I'd argue, it's even more critical for smaller businesses. They often have limited resources, so they need to be extra smart about leveraging their data to compete.
I see your point. It's about working smarter, not just harder. So what are some key principles that can help guide us on this data management journey? Where can we find a roadmap?
There's a globally recognized framework called the DMOK2, which stands for Data Management Body of Knowledge. It outlines 10 key principles that serve as a solid foundation for any data management strategy.
10 principles, huh? That sounds like a lot to digest. Can we break down a couple of the most important ones?
Absolutely. One of the core principles is that data is an asset with unique properties. Unlike physical assets that depreciate over time, data can actually become more valuable the more you use it. It's like a renewable resource that grows with proper care and cultivation.
That's interesting. I never thought of data that way. It's like a plant that needs to be nurtured. So how do we nurture our data?
Well, another crucial principle is that effective data management requires leadership commitment. It can't just be a bottom-up initiative. It needs to be driven from the top. Leaders need to set the vision, allocate resources, and foster a data-driven culture within the organization.
So we need everyone on board, from the CEO to the frontline employees. But how do we ensure that all these different departments are working together effectively? Data can be pretty siloed within organizations, can it?
You're hitting on a major challenge. One way to address this is to think about data from an enterprise perspective. Rather than just focusing on individual departments, it's like looking at the big picture puzzle instead of just focusing on individual pieces. This is where a framework like the Amsterdam Information Model can be helpful.
Okay, the Amsterdam Information Model. I'm intrigued. Can you tell us more about that?
The Amsterdam Information Model shows how business strategy, operations, and information systems must be aligned for successful data management. It emphasizes that data is not just a technical issue, it's a business issue, and it needs to be treated as such.
So we need a holistic approach. That considers the entire organization and its goals. It's not just about the IT department, right?
Exactly. Data management is everyone's responsibility. We need everyone on the same page, speaking the same data language, if you will.
Speaking the same data language, I like that. But speaking of different languages, isn't there a whole alphabet soup of data types out there? How does that affect our management approach?
You're right. Data isn't just one big homogeneous blob. There are different types of data, each with its own characteristics and challenges. And understanding these differences is crucial for developing effective management strategies. Let's take a simple example, like a recipe. Think about a recipe. You have a list of ingredients with specific quantities. That's your structured data. It's organized and easily searchable. Then you have the instructions, written in plain language. That's unstructured data. It's more free-flowing and requires a different approach to analyze.
That's a great way to put it. I'm starting to see how these different data types We need different handling. So how do these differences translate to the actual systems we use to manage data?
When we talk about managing structured data, we often turn to relational databases. Think of them as spreadsheets on steroids, with rows and columns representing different data points and their relationships. They're the workhorse of many businesses, powering everything from customer relationship management systems to inventory tracking.
So relational databases are great for structured data, like a organized ingredient list.
Yeah.
What about unstructured data, like the recipe instructions? How do we wrangle that?
Unstructured data is where things get a bit more complex. We might use tools like NoSQL databases, which are designed to handle large volumes of diverse data, including text, images, and even social media posts.
NoSQL databases. Fascinating. So they're kind of like a catch-all for the messier stuff. I'm guessing social media companies. So you're swimming in NoSQL databases then.
You got it. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter rely heavily on NoSQL databases. To manage the constant influx of user-generated content, it's a different beast altogether compared to neatly organized customer transactions. In a relational database,
It's amazing how these different database types have evolved to tackle specific data challenges. But data isn't static, is it? It's constantly changing and being updated. How do we keep up with that?
that's where the concept of change data capture comes into play. Imagine you're collaborating on a document with someone and you want to see their edits in real time. Change data capture does something similar for databases, tracking and capturing those data changes as they happen.
Okay, so it's like a live feed of data updates. Why is that so important?
Well, think about a stock trading platform. They need to react to price fluctuations instantaneously. Change data capture allows them to integrate these changes into their systems in near real time, enabling lightning-fast decision-making.
Wow, that's high stakes. It's fascinating to see how these data management concepts are applied in such diverse scenarios. It really highlights the importance of having the right tools and strategies in place.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the tools, it's also about understanding the data lifecycle. Data goes through different stages, from creation and collection to processing, storage, and eventually archival or deletion. Managing this lifecycle effectively is crucial for ensuring data quality, security, and compliance.
The data life cycle. That's a great point. It's like a journey with different checkpoints along the way. So what are some key considerations at each of these stages?
At the creation stage, we need to ensure we're collecting the right data in the right format and with appropriate consent. If we're dealing with personal information, during processing, we clean and transform the data to make it usable and consistent. Storage involves choosing the right database type and ensuring secure backups. And finally, archival or deletion involves making decisions about what data to keep, for how long, and how to dispose of it securely.
Sounds like there's a lot to think about at each step of the way. But all this effort, all this careful planning and management, what's the ultimate payoff? What do we gain from having our data house in order? It sounds like a lot of work up front, but I can see how having a solid data management strategy could pay off in the long run.
Absolutely. When you manage your data well, you unlock a treasure trove of insights that can drive better decision-making across your entire organization.
So it's not just about avoiding disasters, it's about proactively using data to gain a competitive advantage.
Exactly. Think about it. You can identify trends, predict customer behavior, optimize your marketing campaigns, personalize product recommendations. The possibilities are endless.
That's what I love about this topic. It touches every aspect of business these days, whether you're in marketing, sales operations, or even finance. Data is at the heart of it all.
And the beauty of it is that data is a renewable resource. The more you use it, the more valuable it becomes. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets.
Okay, that's a powerful analogy. But with great power comes great responsibility, right? We've talked about the benefits of good data management, but what are some of the risks if we get it wrong?
The risks are significant. Poor data quality can lead to bad decisions, missed opportunities, wasted resources, and even reputational damage. Imagine sending out a marketing campaign with incorrect customer data or making financial projections based on inaccurate information. The consequences can be disastrous.
It's like building a house on a shaky foundation.
Yeah.
So how do we ensure that our data foundation is solid? What are some best practices to keep in mind?
One key principle is data governance. This involves establishing clear roles, responsibilities, and processes for managing data across the organization. It's about creating a framework that ensures data quality, consistency, and security.
So data governance is like the rule book that everyone needs to follow.
Exactly. It sets the standards and guidelines for how data should be handled throughout its life cycle. Another crucial aspect is data quality management. This involves proactive measures to prevent errors, detect anomalies, and ensure the accuracy and reliability of your data.
Data quality management, that sounds like an ongoing process, not just a one-time fix.
You're right, it's a continuous effort that requires vigilance and attention to detail. You need systems in place to validate data, identify inconsistencies, and correct errors promptly.
It's almost like having a quality control team for your data.
Precisely, you need to treat your data with the same care and attention you would give any other valuable asset.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the fundamentals of data management. I feel like I've gained a much clearer understanding of why it's so important and the key principles that underpin it.
It's been a pleasure discussing this with you, and remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole world of data management to explore, from data integration and warehousing to the exciting realms of big data and data science.
So much to learn. We'll definitely have to do more deep dives into these topics in the future.
I'm always up for a good data conversation. It's such a
Mhm.
dynamic and ever-evolving field. There's always something new to discover.
Well, on that note, a huge thank you to expert speaker for sharing your expertise with us today. And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe. And don't hesitate to tell us in the comments what topics are important for you.